morning, YouTube. Yes, we're back at it again. It is about 8:20 on Wednesday morning. What's today? Tuesday morning. Wednesday morning. I am on my way into work, and I'm actually running a little bit behind because I had to take a lasagna out of the oven for my wife's party this morning. Just a regular Stouffer's, nothing fancy. But on my way into work, wanted to give you my plan of the day, which will include some drone flying, hopefully. And talk to you a little bit about, from a teaching perspective, teaching how to fly. Because I think how to fly drones and people, because there's a correlation there that exists that I think that's important. And the method that I like to use to teach also applies to anything that one can teach as well. Raina, good morning. Thanks for joining. DJ Eva, thank you for joining as well. Thanks for hanging out and listening to me rant and just chat a little bit about what I've got going on this morning. So today, I've got some skydivers that are coming to iFly Virginia Beach that want to get better at jumping out of airplanes. And also recognize real quick, I am not really paying attention to the chat because I'm driving, and I want to focus on driving, of course, and being safe. So doing my best to not look at the camera or look at the chat, although I do have it up. The cool thing about Prism Live is if I swipe it to the right, I can get rid of the chat and go in video mode only. But it's not too much of a distraction. I mean, I would submit that I'm better at texting while driving than drive streaming. I'm just kidding. I don't text and drive because that's not safe either. But yeah, just rolling out to work. Someone is drive streaming as well. Keep going. Come on. You can move out. Quit looking at your phone and go. Idiot. So yeah, it's cold out here, bro. It's 35 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's pretty cold. I mean, my coffee is still steaming, even though I got the cover off of it to try to cool it off. Although my heat seater is getting way too cold, and there's something to be said about having a heated steering wheel as well. It's so nice to not have to wear gloves, which restrict the flow of blood into your hands as well. And the heat seater is, say it, I'm toasty warm right now. My butt's toasty warm. My kegel is toasty warm. So, come on, man. All right. So, what I was talking about earlier was I want to just chat a little bit about how I teach things, because I do use a method that I learned from scouting that applies in, when you switch the order around, and it's kind of cyclical at the same time as well. So in scouting, it's called the EDGE method of teaching a skill, and it's an acronym for explain, demonstrate, guide, enable. And it's a very effective method. I mean, it's an acronym, like I said, that when utilized appropriately, and you could actually go DEGE, D-E-G-E, demonstrate, explain, guide, enable, when you're teaching things. Particularly things that are more, I guess, physical versus talking through it, But you can go DEGE or EDGE, and it all depends on what I'm teaching. If I'm teaching a knot, I might talk about the knot in itself. I'll explain what purpose of the knot, what it is, and then I'll demonstrate how to tie it, and then I'll guide the scout, the student, or whoever I'm teaching the skill to on how to tie it, and then I'll have them do that over and over again, and eventually, as part of the learning process, and there's other methods to the guiding piece as well, and tricks to, for example, tie knots. But once they know how to do it, I'll have them teach it back to somebody else. That's enabling. Because when you can teach a skill back to someone else also, that will make you better at that particular skill. And so that's the idea with EDGE. So explain what the skill is, demonstrate the skill, guide that student on how to complete that skill, and enable them. So how does that apply to indoor skydiving? Margie TV, good morning. Thanks for hanging out also. My voice is hoarse because I was cheering for the wrestling team last night. My son is home from Christmas break, and he was asked to go help out as a wrestling coach since he graduated from that high school last year. And so, of course, I went out there to video the matches for the youth because they like to see their matches and such. I did not put it public, although it's a good hour of video time. I think. I think there were 15 matches, so maybe less than that of time. But they're all unlisted because they're youths. Some parents may not want their kids' video out in the open, and I let them know also if they want me to take that wrestling video down, then I will. In fact, Edge, or let's rearrange it to DEGE, D-E-G-E, applies to teaching a wrestling skill also. I demonstrate that skill, then I talk about it, then I have them do it, guide them on how to do it appropriately, that wrestling movement, and then have them try to teach it back to somebody else. And it's a very effective method on how to teach things. So I'm going to attempt to structure many of my tutorial videos on how to fly drones and how to do stuff in that manner, where once again explaining, demonstrating, guiding, enabling. So indoor skydiving, let's talk a little bit about that. So very basic skills. I've got a group of skydivers that are they're not skydivers yet. They're learning how to skydive, and they're going to be going through some training here shortly, and they want to get ahead of that training by learning how to fly inside of a wind tunnel first before they actually jump from an airplane. And so I usually just do edge, or in the wind tunnel yesterday when I was teaching the new guys, I got rid of the D. No D. EGE. I explained it, then I put them in the wind, and then I guided them on how to do it. And then I have not enabled them. So actually it's just EG, because they're still learning this stuff, And so, but there's a lot of explanation, and it's pretty cool. We'll put them in the wind tunnel. We'll come out of the wind tunnel after a 2-minute flight session. We'll watch their flight on the TV, because we have a TV that is on a 2-minute delay that will record and play back their flight. So I can explain to them what they're doing wrong, what they're doing right, and then once we go through that, then I'll explain to them what the next skill and drill will be for when we get into the flight session again. And when I demonstrate, I don't actually demonstrate in the wind, I just demonstrate on the ground, which may not necessarily be as effective. So I think what I'm going to go do this time is before I'll explain, I'll demonstrate it, and then guide them. So it's going to be a lot of EDG today, because they will not be skilled enough to actually teach it back to someone else. Not in today's session anyway. Thank you very much, DJ. Keeping safe as always. I mean, the roads are definitely filled. Not a lot of drivers, but it's still busy traffic-wise and such. So, but thank you very much for hanging out and joining. Samar girl from New York City. Yes, I am having some coffee. Are you eating a donut also? My breakfast this morning included a banana, a handful of mixed nuts, and a slice of ham. Paleo style, right? I usually have a paleo breakfast for every day, because that's what fuels me up until my snack time, which is around 10:30, and it's something similar with a piece of fruit, handful of nuts, and some type of a protein as well. But yeah, I appreciate you guys hanging out, listening to me rant a little bit. It's just also, it helps me get through how I'm going to teach things today also. So again, I'm going to try something with EDG, explain, demonstrate, guide, as best as I can. Demonstration part, because I don't want to necessarily use up their time, because the way it works is they're buying time. I'd rather just put them in the wind, and I'll probably have to do the demonstration when I'm on the ground. But everything is played by ear, so to speak. I'm always figuring out ways to get them, to get this to click, as they say. David, good morning. Thanks for joining. It's chilly out here, 35 degrees. I believe it's a little bit warmer out where you are, yeah? Although I know that the desert gets pretty darn cold. When I was in New Mexico, it felt like winter in the mountains over there. In Cimarron, New Mexico, to be exact. My son and I, about 4 years ago, we went to Philmont Scout Ranch in Cimarron, New Mexico, and we backpacked a good over a 2-week period, maybe 100 miles of backpacking. Actually, he was there for we were both there for 3 weeks, but 2 weeks were for backpacking trek, and then he stayed for another week so he could attend a leadership course, and I stayed for another week since we were there together, and he was there also, and my wife didn't want him flying back by himself yet, because at the time he was only, 14 years old, I guess. So I decided to stick around for another week, but instead of just hanging out in a hotel room, we were going sightseeing for a week, and I did not have a drone yet. 45, that's pretty chilly though. Right on, David. I found another leadership course, a scout leadership course that I could attend and such. So just gotta let that guy go. But what's funny about that whole thing, even though she wanted me to stick around, my son, he had forgotten that he had like a pocket knife in his backpack, or a Gerber multi-tool in his carry-on luggage. So when he went through security, they busted him for it. And we're wearing our scout uniforms when we traveled, right? And so I went through first, and then they came over to me after they busted him for his pocket knife, his Gerber multi-tool, and they said, "Hey, he has this." And I looked at him, I go, "Figure it out. I'll see you at the gate." And he's like, "What?" And the TSA attendant looked at me like, "You're a jerk." And you know what? I'm enabling him to be a man, to figure it out himself, I mean, he put himself into a situation that is not allowing him to pass. He's got to figure it out. And so I left him. I went to the gate, and he eventually figured out, what needed to do. I said, "Look, these are your options. You can throw it in the trash, your Gerber multi-tool, or you can ask to see about putting it in your checked luggage." And so he opted for that, but he figured that all out himself, and yeah, he made it to the gate all by himself, and my wife was pissed. She was not happy about that. But I've got to go. YouTube, thanks for hanging out and joining today. I'm going to go upstairs and teach these guys and try, getting rid of the enable piece, or maybe I'll have them teach it back to each other. We'll see how they perform. But have a great day. Maybe we'll get some drone flying in later on. See you guys. Do you wish to end the YouTube stream? Yes, end.